What if you could drop your enterprise customer service wait times from over 4 hours to just 12 minutes and see a 340% ROI in under a year?
I mean, that sounds completely made up, right?
Right. But seriously, ask yourself what that kind of operational leap would do for your bottom line. And what if the secret to unlocking those numbers isn't just about, integrating cutting edge tech, but actually leaning heavily into strict, newly enforced government regulation?
Yeah, it sounds completely counterintuitive, especially for technical leaders who usually see regulation as just, well, a massive
Yeah,
speed bump.
totally. A complete roadblock.
Exactly. But for enterprises right now, particularly those operating in or around the European Union, the landscape of customer service in 2026 is undergoing this seismic shift. We are basically standing at the collision point of two massive forces:
Which are?
the maturation of agentic AI and the impending, very real enforcement of the EU AI Act. It's an environment where adapting strategically is no longer optional.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the baseline for survival.
Which is the core mission of today's deep dive. We are unpacking a really strategic, highly technical blueprint from AetherLink.
Yeah, the Dutch AI consulting firm.
Right, based out of Eindhoven. They're very well known in the enterprise space for their distinct product lines. AetherBot for AI agents, AetherMind for strategic architecture, and AetherDV for deployment.
Right.
So we're going to use their insights to help you, whether you're a CTO, a lead developer, or a business leader, understand how to balance hyper-efficiency with strict regulatory compliance.
Because the theoretical era of AI, where we just marvel at what large language models can generate in a vacuum, that's over.
Oh.
We are now officially in the era of concrete, highly regulated enterprise application.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand that crazy 340% ROI number I mentioned right at the top, we first need to define the technical engine actually driving it.
Right, the technology itself.
Yeah. We have to separate traditional AI from agentic AI. I mean, for a CTO evaluating this, a traditional enterprise chatbot is essentially just a highly indexed search engine, right? It's wrapped in a conversational interface.
Basically.
It uses retrieval augmented generation, or array, to find a policy document and summarize it. Helpful, sure, but it has read-only access to your business. It's like a front desk clerk handing you a static map.
That's a great analogy, actually.
Thanks. But an agentic AI, on the other hand, operates more like a proactive concierge. It doesn't just give you the map, it spots a delay in your itinerary, autonomously rebooks your transit, and compensates you for the trouble. It's acting like a junior systems administrator.
Yes, because it has specific read and write permissions across your microservices. And that distinction between read-only and read-write, that is the entire ballgame here.
How so?
Well, a traditional system waits for a prompt, retrieves an answer like, your order is delayed, please contact logistics, and then it just stops. It deflects the interaction.
Which is frustrating for the customer.
Incredibly frustrating. But an agentic system, like the ones engineered on the AetherBot platform, executes multi-step workflows. If it detects a supply chain anomaly, it autonomously queries your ERP system, identifies the bottleneck, reroutes the shipping priority, and updates the client's dashboard.
Before they even notice the delay.
Exactly, before they even notice. And according to McKinsey's 2024 AI report, 65% of enterprises are already piloting these agentic workflows, largely because they solve the root problem instead of just, routing a ticket.
Okay, but hold on. Let me push back on this for a second.
Go for it.
Giving a piece of software the ability to autonomously adjust shipping logic or rewrite database entries or issue refunds in our backend, I mean, that sounds like a massive vulnerability.
That's terrifying.
It does. If I am sitting in the CTO chair, letting an AI loose to spend company money or alter logistics tables, that feels like a fast track to a systemic disaster. Isn't that incredibly risky?
What's fascinating here is the crucial technical distinction between agentic and autonomous. The industry uses them interchangeably all the time, which completely terrifies security teams, but they're fundamentally different architectures.
Okay, break that down for me.
So, autonomous AI lacks hard-coded guardrails. It can theoretically pursue a goal using whatever methods it determines are best.
Right, the sci-fi scenario.
Yeah, exactly. But agentic AI, which is what we deploy for enterprise customer service, operates strictly within a deterministic sandbox. You aren't giving the model root access to your entire infrastructure.
So it's not just running wild?
No, not at all. You're
Okay.
giving it a highly specific budget, access to isolated APIs, and strict logic-based rules for when to trigger those microservices.
So it's really about defining the blast radius. You constrain the AI's action space so it can only pull specific levers, And any action outside that space requires human authentication.
Precisely. It makes contextual decisions, but only within those predetermined API parameters. And because it is actually resolving the issue within those safe boundaries,
Right.
rather than just apologizing to the customer, we see a fundamental shift in the metrics.
And the data supports this.
Absolutely. Forrester's 2025 data shows a 42% improvement in first contact resolution, specifically with agentic systems.
Wow. A 42% drop in ticket volume is staggering. But that introduces a serious friction point in my mind.
What's that?
If this agentic system is navigating complex back-end logistics and database queries, how is it communicating these complex resolutions to, say, a frantic B2B supplier?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because forcing a supplier to read a wall of text or JSON data in a tiny chat window is going to frustrate them even more. Typing to a bot feels like sending a telegram at this point.
It really does.
So that brings us to multimodal voice agents. Because the interaction needs to feel natural.
Exactly. The interface has to match the intelligence of the backend. Typing to an AI introduces latency and, honestly, just cognitive load for the user. Multimodal means the system isn't just taking text and converting it to speech, or vice versa.
It's doing more than just text-to-speech.
Way more. Native multimodal models process audio waveforms, semantic text, and contextual visual data all simultaneously. And the demand for this kind of low-latency interaction is massive. Gartner's 2025 data actually shows that 78% of enterprise customers now prefer voice-enabled channels for complex problem resolution.
78%. That's huge. But how does this actually work under the hood without feeling like, a scripted IVR tree, or worse, a creepy digital puppet if there's an AI avatar involved? How does it improve things for the end user?
Well, it comes down to parallel processing. When a customer speaks, a multimodal agent isn't just transcribing the words, it is analyzing the acoustic features, the pitch, the tempo, the micropauses to gauge sentiment, while simultaneously analyzing the semantic meaning of the text.
Wait, really? It listens to how you say things, not just what you say.
Yes, exactly.
What?
So if a customer's vocal tempo increases and their pitch rises, indicating frustration, the AI detects that acoustic cue in real time.
Oh, wow.
And then it can instantly adjust its own vocal cadence to be more calming, simplify its technical jargon, or trigger a seamless handoff to a human account executive, passing along the entire contextual history. Plus, it ensures a consistent brand identity, provides crucial accessibility for visually impaired customers, and allows for cultural and linguistic personalization at scale.
That drastically changes the user experience. You aren't battling a phone menu. You're talking to a system that adapts to your cognitive state.
And the business impact totally reflects that.
Right.
Companies integrating these multimodal agents are reporting a 34% reduction in average handle time and a 22% bump in customer satisfaction scores.
Those are massive gains.
Yeah, and in B2B contexts especially, the friction it removes is profound. These agents handle 85 to 95% of routine inquiries simply because voice is faster than documentation.
I mean, think about a supplier trying to track down a complex bulk order with a 15-digit alphanumeric PO number.
Nightmare.
Nobody wants to type that out on a mobile device while walking a warehouse floor. You want to speak the number, have the system process the audio, instantly query the ERP database, pull the visual context of your account, and verbally confirm the shipping status.
It completely removes the interface entirely.
Right.
And by automating those high-volume, low-complexity data pulls, you free up your human engineers and account managers for the remaining 5 to 15% of interactions that actually require genuine strategic advisory.
Okay, but wait. If this multimodal system is analyzing acoustic features, pitch, and vocal cadence, it is actively processing biometric data.
Yep, it sure is.
And for anyone operating in Europe, that immediately triggers the 2026 EU AI Act. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, definitely.
Because customer service AI isn't just a basic software deployment anymore. Under this new legislation, systems that process biometrics or determine pricing are classified as high risk.
And that classification changes the entire engineering roadmap. The moment your AI falls into the high-risk category under the EU AI Act, you are legally mandated to implement a massive layer of governance.
What does that look like in practice?
We are talking about transparent documentation of your training data provenance, rigorous bias auditing, mandatory human oversight mechanisms, and really deep explainability features.
So you can't just use a black box.
No, absolutely not. If an auditor knocks on your door, you have to be able to trace exactly why your agentic system made a specific routing decision or offered a specific compensation package.
Come on, compliance is traditionally viewed as a massive cost center by engineering teams. I mean, it slows down deployment, it eats up
I'll
compute.
hear that all the time.
Right. But the AetherLink article frames this regulation as a hidden value. How can adding regulatory red tape, logging every API call, and building explainability dashboards actually be a competitive advantage? It just sounds like a severe drag on innovation.
This raises an important question, and it's a trap so many technical leaders fall into right now. They view the EU AI Act purely as a penalty matrix.
Which makes sense given the signs.
True. And the data confirms that building this governance layer adds about 15 to 20% to your upfront implementation costs. So no, it's not cheap.
Right.
But let's look at the alternative mechanism. The fines for high-risk violations under this act can reach up to 30 million euros, or 6% of global revenue.
6% of global revenue isn't just a fine, it's an extinction-level event for a mid-sized enterprise.
It will completely bankrupt companies.
How?
But beyond just risk mitigation, the compliance architecture itself becomes an offensive strategy.
How so?
Well, if you utilize a platform like AetherLink's AI-led architecture, you aren't manually logging API calls. You get automated compliance monitoring dashboards, bias auditing, and decision weight tracing built into the system from day one.
Okay, so it's automated.
Yes, and that turns a regulatory burden into a highly visible trust signal for your B2B partners.
Ah, I see. Because enterprise clients want to know your backend is secure before they integrate their own supply chain data with it.
Furthermore, it grants you earlier market access. While your competitors are stuck in legal review for 6 months trying to retroactively bolt compliance onto a black box LLM, your fully audited, deterministic system is already deployed, scaling, and capturing market share.
So it actually speeds you up in the long run.
Exactly. It creates a level of operational resilience that non-compliant architectures simply cannot match.
I see. So instead of viewing compliance as a roadblock, you view it as building a robust API gateway. It costs more compute and time up front, but when the audit hits, your system doesn't have to be taken offline.
Precisely.
Okay, let's ground all this theory in reality. How does an enterprise actually build this without breaking their current operations? Because deploying this is like upgrading a plane's engine mid-flight.
It really is, which is why phasing is absolutely crucial.
Let's look at the case study from the source. It details a mid-size manufacturing component supplier with over 250 employees located right in the Eindhoven region.
A very classic, complex B2B enterprise scenario.
And their legacy metrics were just brutal. 68% of their customer inquiries had to be escalated to a human because their traditional chatbot couldn't write to the database. Their average response time was over 4 hours.
4 hours is an eternity in B2B supply chain.
Right. And their engineering team was paralyzed by uncertainty regarding how to build within the EU AI Act parameters. So they implement AetherLink's EtherBot solution, giving it agentic read-write capabilities and multimodal voice processing in Dutch, English, and German.
And crucially, they integrate the compliance modules and bias monitoring natively.
Yes, and the results. After an 8-month implementation period, their cost per interaction dropped from €4.20 down to 84 cents.
That is an 80% reduction in operational cost per ticket,
And their response times dropped from over 4 hours to 12 minutes.
while simultaneously pushing their customer satisfaction score from a baseline of 71 up to an 87.
It's incredible. But deploying a system with read-write access across an entire enterprise isn't trivial. You can't just connect an LLM to your live ERP database and flip a switch.
No, please do not do that.
Right. It requires a dedicated sandbox environment. If you mess up the deployment, the AI could overwrite critical logistics data.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the success of that Eindhoven manufacturer was entirely dependent on a strict, highly technical 4-phase implementation strategy.
Walk us through those phases.
So phase 1 is assessment and governance design. You don't write a single line of code here. You spend 4 weeks mapping your current data architecture, assessing the maturity of your APIs, and determining your exact EU AI Act risk classification.
Basically, you are building the airlock before you open the door to the vacuum of space.
That's exactly it. Then phase 2 is the pilot, and this is where that sandbox concept comes in. You deploy the multimodal voice agent, but in what we call shadow mode.
Meaning it's listening but not acting.
Right. It processes live customer audio and formulates a response at an action plan.
Right.
But it is physically disconnected from the live write APIs.
Got it.
Human engineers then review its intended actions against historical data to validate its decision-making logic. Only when it hits a 99% accuracy threshold do you give it live execution capabilities.
And even then, it's limited, right?
Very limited. Strictly for high-volume, low-complexity inquiries. Usually that covers about 30 to 40% of your ticket volume.
That prevents the hallucination risk from impacting the live database.
Exactly. Then you move to phase 3, which is governance operationalization. Because this isn't a set-it-and-forget-it deployment, you have to establish continuous compliance monitoring.
So the engineers are still heavily involved.
Very much so. The AI's decision weights are constantly logged and audited for bias or drift. The source notes this requires about 60 to 70 hours of dedicated human governance effort per month. Your engineers transition from fixing bugs to governing the AI's logic.
And the final phase.
Phase 4 is scaling. You iteratively expand the AI's read-write permissions to new microservices and use cases until you hit that 80% automation coverage.
How long does that take?
It usually takes an enterprise 12 to 18 months to achieve safely. And honestly, it makes complete sense why Eindhoven has become the central hub for this kind of architectural transition.
Because of the proximity to EU regulators.
That, and it houses tech giants like ASML and Philips, who are actively pioneering these AI governance frameworks. Plus, it boasts a talent pool of over 8,000 AI specialists. It's an ecosystem literally custom-built for deploying regulated AI.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But the technical metrics are impressive, but there is one data point from that case study that I think is the most profound indicator of success.
Retention numbers.
Yes, the human metric. Because the agentic system successfully automated the routine database queries and shipping updates, the human agents weren't laid off, they were upskilled.
Redeployed to handle complex, high-value contract negotiations and strategic account management.
Exactly. And as a result of removing that robotic work from their daily workflows, human employee retention actually boosted by 24%.
That is a massive organizational win.
It really is. So what does this all mean? If I had to distill this entire deep dive into a single takeaway for you, the technical leaders and developers listening, it's about the evolution of the human worker.
It's a huge shift.
Yeah. There is this pervasive industry fear that deploying autonomous systems is purely a headcount reduction strategy. But the data here proves the exact opposite. Agentic AI isn't replacing the human touch. It is automating the mundane data retrieval and basic execution tasks.
It takes the robot out of the human.
Exactly. It takes the robotic work out of the human's day so your team can actually focus on edge cases, high-value strategic accounts, and complex problem-solving where human empathy and lateral thinking are legally and functionally required. You are upgrading your engineering and support staff, not replacing them.
I love that. And I think my primary takeaway is that for enterprise architecture in 2026, governance must be built in, not bolted on.
Right.
The era of moving fast and breaking things is definitively over, especially in Europe, treating EU AI Act compliance as a strategic asset, as a functional moat that protects your database integrity and builds undeniable customer trust, rather than a regulatory afterthought, is exactly what separates the market leaders from the laggards right now.
It's competitive advantage.
A massive one. The multimodal and agentic technology is phenomenal, obviously, but it is the deterministic governance architecture that makes it safely deployable at scale.
It really is a complete paradigm shift in how we build and scale enterprise software. But before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over regarding the structure of your own teams.
Ooh, this is a good one.
If agentic AI is successfully handling 95% of routine everyday inquiries and basic troubleshooting, what happens to the entry-level roles in your organization?
Right, the junior positions.
Historically, those basic interactions were the training ground for your junior staff. It is how they learn the architecture of your business before moving up. So how will you train the senior experts and management teams of tomorrow when the AI is seamlessly doing all the foundational work today? For more AI insights, visit AetherLink.ai.